United States Air Force One. If a hostile nation shot down Air Force One tomorrow, they might discover that the aircraft they hit had never really been Air Force One at all. The name is a call sign, not a plane. The United States Air Force operates two specially modified Boeing 747-200Bs, and whichever one the president is on that day carries the name for the duration of the flight. When he lands, so does the name. Both of these 747s were delivered in 1990. They are, in every sense that matters, flying command centers built to allow the President of the United States to keep running the country from the sky during a nuclear war. The wiring inside each aircraft is reported to run for hundreds of miles, far more than a normal 747, with key systems hardened against the electromagnetic pulse generated by a nuclear detonation. The aircraft is built to keep flying, keep communicating, and keep the president in command during a national crisis. Secure and unsecure phone lines, satellite links, and encrypted communications put him in real-time contact with the Pentagon, NORAD, and America's national command authorities. The aircraft is widely reported to carry missile warning systems and countermeasures designed to defeat heat-seeking missiles fired from the ground. It refuels in the air. With aerial refueling, the VC-25A can theoretically stay airborne for far longer than a normal 747, limited by the crew's endurance, the food supply on board, and maintenance realities. Its two galleys can prepare and serve up to 100 meals at one sitting. A medical compartment sits behind the president's suite, and a physician normally travels with the president on every flight. The president has a private stateroom with a shower, a dressing room, and an office. The interior spans 4,000 square feet across 3 levels. The aircraft can carry about 30 crew and 71 passengers. 2 replacement aircraft based on the newer 747-8 are currently in production. The program has been running years behind schedule and billions of dollars over budget. Boeing has taken billions in losses and charges on the contract. Somewhere in that fiasco, the Air Force decided the replacement will not have the same in-flight refueling capability, a decision tied to cost, complexity, and changing mission assumptions. So the next Air Force One may arrive years late, billions over budget, and missing one of the most dramatic capabilities of the aircraft it replaces. United Kingdom Vespina. Surprisingly, the country that invented the jet engine, the modern airliner, and half of aviation itself does not actually own the aircraft that flies its prime minister. Britain leases theirs from a private company under a contract that also involves refueling fighter jets. Every time the UK Prime Minister flies somewhere, he boards an Airbus A330 whose day job is being an aerial fuel truck for the Royal Air Force. Vespina, as the aircraft is nicknamed, spends most of its life topping up British Typhoons and F-35s in mid-flight. When Downing Street needs to visit a foreign capital, the aircraft is pulled off tanker duty, wheeled into a hangar, and turned into a diplomatic transport. When the trip is over, the fuel hoses go back on. The interior tells you exactly what kind of budget went into it. There is no presidential suite. There is no medical operating theater. There is a 58-seat business class cabin at the front for the Prime Minister, ministers, and traveling press. Behind that, another 100 standard seats for staff and security. That is it. Journalists sit in the same cabin as the officials they are covering, on the same flight, eating the same food. The Prime Minister flies to his hotel from the airport, like anyone else. In 2020, Boris Johnson decided the grey Royal Air Force paint job was too shy for a country trying to sell itself as global Britain. He ordered the aircraft repainted red, white, and blue, with a Union Jack on the tail and the words United Kingdom in gold down the side. Cost £900,000 in taxpayer money for the paintwork alone. Opposition MPs called it a vanity project. Downing Street called it national branding. It is still a leased tanker with a fresh coat of paint. Vespina cannot survive a nuclear attack. It was never designed to. It does have flare countermeasures and can be escorted by fighter jets in a war zone. It also, if the mission requires it, can refuel those same fighter jets on the way home. The UK's answer to Air Force One is a rental with a Union Jack. Japan, Boeing 777. Japan's armed forces are officially called the Self-Defense Forces, a name shaped by the country's post-war constitution. The aircraft that flies the Japanese Prime Minister around the world is technically a self-defense asset flown by self-defense pilots, operating under a constitution that renounces war and has shaped one of the most careful defense postures on Earth. What that means in practice is that Japan's version of Air Force One is one of the most understated government aircraft in the developed world, deliberately, culturally, almost embarrassingly. On major overseas government missions, Japan normally operates two identical Boeing 777s, one primary aircraft and one backup. They travel as a pair, not as a dramatic fighter-style formation, but as redundancy built into the schedule. If the primary aircraft has a serious problem, the backup is already part of the mission plan. The Prime Minister can transfer at the next stop, and the schedule can continue. This is not paranoid. This is Japanese engineering culture applied to a diplomatic problem. Redundancy is easier than explaining a delay. From the outside, the aircraft look closer to clean government airliners than flying palaces. Inside, the layout is functional. Senior VIP space, conference and work areas, staff seating, press seating, and secure communications back to Tokyo. No throne room, no gold-plated bathroom, no cabin bar, no medical operating theater. When the Prime Minister boards, the scene still looks closer to a state aircraft departure than a royal spectacle. ANA Holdings handles maintenance and training support under contract because Japan chose to use civilian wide-body expertise for a very small two-aircraft fleet. Between missions, the aircraft do not sit in a hangar with an honor guard. They fly training missions from Chitose Air Base in Hokkaido to keep the crews certified. Their role is dedicated government transport and the training needed to support it. Japan introduced both Boeing 777-300ER government aircraft in 2019 as a matched pair to replace two 747s that had been in the role since 1993. The total cost was significant but never headline-grabbing because Japan tends to present this kind of spending in quiet bureaucratic language. That is the entire national posture in one sentence. Japan's government aircraft is a superpower's flying office, deliberately dressed like a restrained state airliner because that is Japan's whole post-war defense posture in aircraft form. China, Boeing 747. The most powerful country in Asia does not advertise a dedicated presidential aircraft the way the United States does. The leader of 1.4 billion people, the head of the world's second-largest economy, and the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party flies to state visits on the same fleet of Boeing 747s that Air China uses for its Beijing to London route. Sometimes, the very same aircraft. This is not a budget problem. China could build itself a fleet of presidential 747s tomorrow if it wanted to. It has chosen not to. When Xi Jinping came to power in 2013, he launched a nationwide austerity campaign aimed at corrupt officials, banquets, gold-plated everything. Building a Chinese Air Force One would have contradicted the entire message. So he kept the arrangement his predecessors had used. Air China provides the plane. The Chinese Air Force does not. 2 weeks before any state visit, Xi's security team selects one of Air China's commercial 747s and pulls it out of the rotation. Interior seats come out. A living room goes in. A bedroom. An office. Roughly a third of the passenger cabin gets transformed into a presidential suite for the duration of the trip. Secure communications equipment gets installed. The security service inspects every wire. After the trip is over, the aircraft is stripped back down, reconfigured for regular passengers, and put back on its usual commercial routes. The next time you fly Air China 747 from Beijing to Frankfurt, you might be sitting in the same window seat Xi was in a month earlier. The aircraft is flown by Air China pilots, not military officers. There are no visible weapons. There are no fighter escorts. There is no visible security in the sky at all. The projection China wants is not power. It is normalcy. A commercial airliner painted in commercial colors, showing up at a foreign capital carrying the leader of the world's most powerful communist state. The strangest part of the whole arrangement is that in 2018, China loaned one of its presidential 747s to Kim Jong-un for his summit with Donald Trump in Singapore. Kim's own aircraft could not fly that far. China, the country that does not have a dedicated presidential jet, was still the country that ended up flying a foreign dictator to his own summit. Russia, Ilyushin Il-96. One of the few places the Ilyushin Il-96 still appears with real regularity is Russia's presidential fleet. The commercial version of the plane was a marketplace disaster. Only a few dozen were built. Aeroflot retired the type from regular passenger service in the mid-2000s. Cubana became one of the last commercial passenger operators, with only limited Il-96 service remaining. The Il-96 was too heavy, too thirsty, too Soviet for the modern airline industry. But the one place where it never stopped making political sense was the Kremlin. That is essentially the point. Russia's presidential aircraft is one of the last major Russian-made wide-body airliners still seen in regular high-profile service. Every Russian president since Boris Yeltsin has flown one. Putin has made it one of the most recognizable head-of-state aircraft in the world. The aircraft is nicknamed the Flying Kremlin, which is exactly the branding Moscow wants. The Il-96 300PU is a modified version of the original Il-96 300. The letters at the end stand for Punkt Upravlenia, Russian for command point. It is designed to allow the President of the Russian Federation to run the country and remain connected to Russia's nuclear command and control system from the air. The aircraft is reported to carry encrypted communications and satellite links back to Russia's military and state command networks, including secure channels to Russia's strategic command structure. It is widely described as an airborne command post, though the precise nuclear command equipment is a state secret. The exterior looks like a large commercial airliner in Russian government livery. The interior is another matter entirely. Gold-plated accents and luxury fittings. Rich woodwork often reported as including Karelian birch. A conference room, a private bedroom, a mini-gym, dining facilities, medical facilities. It is the kind of decor you get when a state with vast oil wealth and no meaningful accountability to voters gets to design a flying palace. Defensively, the aircraft is reported to carry electronic countermeasures, radar jamming equipment, and missile defense systems, possibly similar in purpose to systems used on high-value Russian military aircraft. Russian authorities do not publicly confirm the exact defensive fit. The most sensitive details remain secret. That is also part of the branding. Saudi Arabia, the royal flight. The Saudi royal family does not have a presidential aircraft. It has a fleet. There is no single Air Force One equivalent for the King of Saudi Arabia, because the king, the crown prince, the senior princes, and the leading members of the House of Saud all fly on their own aircraft, most of which are so heavily modified that they no longer resemble the commercial airliners they started life as. The king's own primary transport is a Boeing 747-400 operated under the call sign of the Saudi Royal Flight. There is a second one available for backup. There is an Airbus A340. There is a fleet of 777s used for delegations and senior family members. When the king makes a state visit, the aircraft that lands is easily identifiable because it is painted in the royal green and white with the Saudi coat of arms on the fuselage and gold detailing along the doors. Inside, the aircraft has features you will not find on almost any other presidential jet in the world. A prayer area, sometimes with mats that are electronically programmed to rotate as the aircraft turns, so that whoever is praying is always facing Mecca regardless of the flight path. Gold-plated fittings in the bathrooms, marble accents in the master suite, a full medical facility on the larger aircraft, bedrooms for the king and senior traveling family, guest quarters for foreign dignitaries, a dining room seating the size of a small hotel restaurant. The most extravagant royal aircraft that was ever nearly built came from a Saudi prince who was not the king. In 2007, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal became the first private customer to order an Airbus A380, agreeing to a purchase price rumored to reach over $500 million once the interior was completed. The proposed customization included a Turkish steam room, a marble hammam, a prayer room, a concert hall, and a garage in the cargo hold for his Rolls-Royce. The plane was ordered. The A380 was built. The interior was never completed. Al-Walid canceled the customization contract before the plane was fitted out and eventually sold his position back to Airbus. The most legendary private jet in aviation history existed only as a set of drawings. The one he actually flies today is a customized Boeing 747-400 with a central throne, a dining room seating 14, and enough gold plating to make Louis XIV feel underdressed. United Arab Emirates, the Dubai Royal Air Wing. Emirates Airline is one of the largest and most profitable carriers on the planet. Almost nobody knows that it was founded by the same family that today owns the private aircraft flying the ruler of Dubai around the world. The ruling Al Maktoum family did not just build a presidential fleet. They built an entire commercial airline as a side project. Emirates started with 2 aircraft loaned from the royal family's own hangar in 1985. The Dubai Royal Air Wing gave up 2 Boeing 727-200s to help Emirates begin operations. Emirates now runs over 250 wide bodies. The Royal Air Wing still operates from the same airport. Today, the Dubai Royal Air Wing keeps a fleet of roughly 11 aircraft used exclusively by the ruling family and senior government officials. Long-haul VIP missions are flown on modified Boeing 747-400s. Shorter regional trips go on Boeing 737 business jets. There is a dedicated hangar at Dubai International Airport where the aircraft live. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai and vice president of the UAE, is one of the primary users. So is the Crown Prince. So are visiting heads of foreign governments who Dubai wants to impress. The 747s themselves have been progressively upgraded over the years and are widely believed to include features that would make first-class business travelers weep. Private bedrooms for the ruling family, formal dining rooms, prayer areas, full medical suites, marble bathrooms, gold-plated fittings across cabin interiors. Exact configurations are not published because the aircraft are not commercial airliners and the royal family has no obligation to disclose what is inside them. Photos leak periodically. The interiors look closer to a 5-star hotel suite than an aircraft cabin. The strangest feature of the Dubai Royal Air Wing is that it doubles as one of the world's most efficient humanitarian relief operations. When earthquakes hit Nepal, floods hit Pakistan, or a crisis breaks out in the Middle East, the same Boeing 747s that carry the ruler of Dubai to summits get loaded up with medical supplies and food and flown into the disaster zone the next day. Dubai's answer to Air Force One is a private airline that occasionally saves lives. North Korea Chammae-1. The leader of a nuclear-armed state cannot reliably fly to his own summit meetings. Kim Jong-un's personal aircraft, an Ilyushin Il-62M, nicknamed Chammae-1, is a Soviet-era airliner from a production line that shut down in 1995. The design itself dates back to 1963. Nearly every airline on Earth retired the Il-62 decades ago because it burned too much fuel, cost too much to maintain, and did not meet modern noise or safety standards. The European Union banned the entire Air Koryo fleet from European airspace years ago, and the aircraft Kim actually flies in comes from that same fleet. Chammae-1 is essentially a VIP-configured Air Koryo airliner painted with the North Korean state emblem and a title on the side describing Kim as chairman of the State Affairs Commission. The interior, from the few photos North Korean state media has ever released, includes a leather armchair, a polished wooden desk, a laptop, a telephone, an intercom, and what appears to be a router. That is essentially the office of a mid-level executive from 1985. There is no known encrypted satellite command post. There is no known onboard nuclear authorization system. There is no known long-range secure link back to Pyongyang. If there is, North Korea has not shown it, and analysts are skeptical it exists. The aircraft's practical range is roughly 9,000 kilometers, but it has never publicly flown that far. When Kim needed to get to Singapore in 2018 for his summit with Donald Trump, the North Koreans concluded the aircraft could not reliably make the trip. So the Chinese government loaned him an Air China Boeing 747-400. Kim landed in Singapore on a Chinese commercial aircraft. When he needed to get to Vietnam in 2019 for his second Trump summit, He skipped flying entirely and took a train roughly 4,500 kilometers across China, crossing into Vietnam at the Chinese border before continuing by car, arriving after a journey of more than 2 days. There is a Chammae-2, an identical Il-62M used by Kim's sister and other senior family members. Between them, they represent the entire North Korean presidential air fleet. Both belong to an aircraft generation older than Kim Jong-un himself. The leader of a country that can launch a missile that reaches the American mainland cannot get to his own foreign summit without borrowing a plane from China or a train from anywhere with functioning rails. That is the actual state of North Korean state aviation.